Yo, what's good, everybody? Welcome back to Bain Break It Down Forex. It's your boy Big Bain in this thing, and you guys guessed it. Another week, another opportunity for us to make some money in the Forex market. So let's get right to it, all right? Boom, over on the dollar, guys. So we had a drop, and then we had a rise from demand. Now, if you guys watched last week Watchlist, you guys know that I was expecting that sweep below the support, and then we were going to get the rise to go and sweep this liquidity. But I did not expect for it to go this low and take out this previous low. That's exactly what it did. And we've rose, every day of the week since then, right? So first day and the other days, we started rising up. So what I'm expecting is possibly another drop down, right, to this level of support, and then another rise up, probably, finally making the move that we've been expecting the dollar to make, which was delayed because it just went a little lower than we expected it, or than I expected it to, and then, shot up from there. So we still had opportunities to take advantage of the majors, which we did. GU was the major play that my team took advantage of, all right? But right now, if I go to the lower time frame, right, I will see that with this falling wedge that we have, we rose all the way up to the resistance area, right? So we have a bit of a supply level, if you will, right about here, all right? So we could push up a little bit more, all right, to that supply level, sweeping this little bit of engineered liquidity, and then we can drop once again, all right? We all know the dollar is useless, right? Gold has been rising, all the indices have been rising. So we may not get that super rise that we're expecting on the dollar if we can't break above the supply level. But if we do break above that supply level, then it's on like hot butter popcorn, all right? So bearish initially on the dollar, right? But looking to see if we break above supply. If so, then we definitely are going to continue to get the rise on the dollar. But we made a significant rise over the weekend. So coming up on this week, we'll probably get another drop back down to this area and then possibly rise from there, right, guys? So bearish on the dollar and then bullish on the dollar, right? Moving over to JPY, got the same exact thing, right? It's like deja vu, right? A falling wedge is a lot wider, okay? And it's a different index, but it's the same price action, right? It swept the liquidity behind the support level, swept the previous low just like the dollar did, and now it's starting to rise up. The only difference here is that on its rise, it has not gotten to the level of resistance yet, all right? So I'm expecting it to do just that, all right? So we got a little delay here. We may push down a little bit to fill this imbalance and then rise. But ultimately, the JPY should rise, sweeping all of this liquidity, going to break, these highs that you see, probably get above this high, all right? So I'm bullish on the JPY index, all right? Over to, what is this? Our dollar, all right, guys? So we broke the high, made the new high, and we're starting to pull back here, all right? So again, with the dollar doing that rise for the past 3 days or so, right, we got the odd dollar to drop for the past 3 days or so, all right? So we're now at a bit of a demand level, okay? So we got to be careful, right? Trying to sell at a low, all right? Price went down, right? We don't sell low, we sell high, all right, guys? So with that being said, if we don't sell low, what do, Bain? We buy low, all right, guys? So at this demand level, I'm expecting the odd dollar to push up again because I'm expecting now the dollar to push down. That's the inverse correlation that the dollar index has with the odd dollar pair, right? So if the dollar goes down, odd dollar, euro dollar, pound dollar, New Zealand dollar, they go up, all right, guys? So I'm bullish on odd dollar, all right? Moving over to euro dollar, and once again, same MO, all right? It went down because the dollar rose, right? So now we're at another level of demand right here, and I expect the euro to rise, right? Not sure how far it's going to get, right, in that rise, but we can always aim for any highs that we see here, right, for a take profit. but probably it get to right here in this area, right, just to fill this imbalance. Everything else with price action is it's efficient, right? It's not inefficient with any gaps. It's just this one gap. So I think we're going to push up to here, play around, and then potentially drop from there, because we swept liquidity above price on this rising channel, but we never got it from the downside. All right, so we'll push up, fill this imbalance, and then push down to grab this liquidity and then fill this huge imbalance that's sitting over here to the far left. All right, guys, so again, bullish on euro dollar, then from this area bearish on euro dollar. All right, so there you have it. All right, moving over to pound dollar. All right, pound dollar, guys, my team caught this drop. All right, and it was too hot to trot. All right, and 181 pips or so is what we caught. And again, if you want to see something, right, numbers like that, if you've never seen anything, if you haven't gotten past 15 pips, all right, you need to come holler at me. Forex.Bain.com, tap in. All right, but with GU, same thing as AU and EU, right? We got the nice drop. Now we're not quite near a demand level yet, but we're getting very close, right? Here's one here, here's another one right here. So what I'm expecting is for price to probably push down just a little bit more and then start to rise again. So again, I'm bullish on pound dollar, and then possibly from this area we'll get another opportunity for a drop. All right, guys, moving over to New Zealand dollar, and you guys guessed that we are at a bit of a demand area here within this fair value gap. So I expect it to push down just a little bit, possibly come to this very, very low point that we see right here. All right, and then turn around and start to rise. All right, so all of the non-dollar based pairs, right, euro dollar, AUD dollar, pound dollar, New Zealand dollar, I'm expecting initial rises out of those because we had a major drop. All right, guys, so this is easy money, all right, to take off the table on these particular majors. All right, moving over, so bullish on New Zealand dollar. Over to dollar CAD. I don't really know what this is doing. It's consolidating, and it's just it's weird. All right, but from what it stands right now, right, we had this nice little push up, and then we had this massive bearish candle that gave us a change of character in the way that price was moving. All right, guys, so the price action again was giving us higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, higher lows. Then all of a sudden, kaboom, we broke this higher low to the left and we made a lower low. So now we have a supply area sitting right here, right, which price may go back to retest, all right, and then drop from there. Again, the dollar does look like it's going to fall a bit, so we could get a little bit of a rise and then a drop, or we may just get a drop right from where we're retesting it right now at the end of the week, right? So look for a dollar CAD to potentially give you a nice little drop once it reaches the supply area, guys. All right, so I'm bearish on dollar CAD. All right, moving over to dollar CHF, and let's get a little higher. All right, boom, bam, guys, we have a nice falling channel. All right, we broke out of that, and we even broke this low, so we made this new low. All of this was beginning the pullback, right? So again, dollar should have, this is the bullish move that it made from this low, but now we're sitting at levels of resistance. Okay, guys, so we may not get all the way up. So we may not get all the way up to this level of resistance. All right, but there's still liquidity to be captured to the upside. So this one is a little bit tricky, but because we're at that supply level and the dollar is looking a little bearish, all right, I'm going to go with bearish on dollar CHF for the moment, all right, out the gate. But if we break above the supply area, we're most likely going to continue rising, getting the liquidity sitting behind this falling channel. All right, moving over to dollar JPY. No clue, absolutely no clue, guys. Crazy consolidation all up in here, and this kind of price action is what makes people cry. All right, you buy, you sell, but then you get smacked all around the place. All right, so long story short, I'm leaving UJ alone until it looks more concrete. All right, guys. But yeah, I have no clue what it's going to do. All right, moving over to pound odd. All right, now here is the play of the week for everyone. All right, pound odd, we got 569 pips on the table, guys. Listen to me. All right, we were coming down. All right, we broke this low, made this new low, and we started our pullback with this nice uptrend that we see here with this pullback. But then we broke above this strong lower high, right? So with that, right, that changes everything, right, from down to now up. Okay, so with us changing structure from down to up, we're now sweeping the liquidity behind this trend line, guys. All right, and with this perfect trend line, right, we have this nice demand area from where price initiated everything with getting above this high. All right, so we're going to most likely push down to this demand area and then take off to the upside, guys, to begin that reversal on pound odd for, again, over 500 pips, guys, 569 to be exact. So I'm trying to tell you guys, do not miss out on this play. Set yourself a buy limit order here. You got just a 50 pip stop, guys. This is a 1 to 11 risk to reward. It's just insane. All right, this is the only trade that you'll most likely need next week to get you right. All right, so again, pound odd for the buy. All right, don't miss out on it. All right, over to pound cat. All right, my team caught that drop because this is exactly what I gave you guys in the weekly watch list last week, right? But now here it is once again. We're at a demand level, and I'm expecting us to push up, probably retesting the area that we broke. All right, guys, and then potentially getting another drop from there. All right, so very simple. I am bullish on pound cat, but I'm being careful to make sure that it doesn't just fully drop and fill this imbalance and then rise. Right, I'm trying to see if we get rejection, and then if we kind of get a bull candle or two to, you know, come up out of demand. If it gives us that, then it's a surefire that, you know, we're probably going to continue rising a bit. All right, so bullish on pound cat. Over to pound CHF, and this is also a very nice setup, right? We broke the high, made the new high, started the pullback all the way back down to this demand area. We're very close, so we want to put a position right there at that demand level, guys. We're buying low, right? And it is just the name of the game, right? And getting away with a very tight stop, right? So really right below these wicks, okay? You can go right below the demand, that's 16 pips, but I'm going to go below the wicks for 38 pips, and I'm risking to make 217 to the upside on the take profit. That's a 1 to 5, almost 1 to 6 risk to reward. What that means, guys, is if you risk $1,000, you're pretty much making almost $5,000 to $6,000 if you win the trade. All right, that's how you want to do it. Okay, again, if you're trying to figure this stuff out, you better get with me. Okay, don't get left behind. All right, forexwithbain.com. Click on the link for the Discord and let's get jiggy, people. All right, so bullish on pound CHF. So pound odd, pound CHF, he has your best setup so far. Don't miss him. All right, pound JPYX. Shout out to my dog Nate. All right, he took over 1,200 to 1,800. I want to say, on this drop on GJ. All right, guys, so now that we swept liquidity behind this trend line, we may start to pull back right to this area before we get another drop, or we could just drop. So this one is a little bit tricky. You know, we got to give it a little bit more time to, like, you know, show his hand, right? Show us some candles to see what it's going to do, right? If we get a nice bullish candle where the body is bigger than this one, right, like coming above this candle, so pushing up, getting above here, if we get that, then we will have a bit of a morning star candlestick pattern, and that is a bullish representation. All right, so with that, we caught the drop, and now we can just turn around and catch the rise. All right, I know my boy Nate is listening to this, and there you go, bro. So another 1,800 on the way up. All right, me and Nate, we ate off that plate. All right, so again, guys, hope y'all can do the same. I know you can, but, you know, you gotta let go of your fear, right, and all that other good stuff, and, you know, gain some confidence, which is not easy, but, you know, I can teach you how to, you know, get that together. All right, so again, rock with me. All right, I'm bullish on GJ. All right, moving over to pound New Zealand. Don't really know what it's going to do, but I did call a buy and my team took advantage of this move up. So now we may get the drop, we may get the pullback to this area to fill this imbalance and kind of tap into this demand area. I'm not 100% sure because it can still rise, right? This is sort of the pullback, right? But this is a bit of a demand area as well. But you know, this one is going to be a lot more tricky to kind of see what happens. And I don't like trading pairs when they're in the middle of nowhere, right? So this is really a no-no. I need to see it get lower and then I'll be looking for a buy, or I need to see it at the high and then I'll be looking for a sell. That's the name of the game, no matter what class, asset class you're trading, guys. All right, so remember that, all right? But indecisive on pound New Zealand, so I'm going to skip it for the week. All right, over to silver. All right, so silver just broke a high. And looking at it on the lower time frame, we can see that, yeah, I mean, it has potential to keep rising. All right, the dollar potentially is going to fall, so commodities usually rise. Again, gold and silver just have been, you know, clearly rising. All right, so it can continue doing that. But if we start to get any rejection, right, we may start to get a pullback on silver, and then we could possibly take advantage of some sells. But for right now, silver is still very bullish. All right, moving over to gold. All right, same for gold, guys. So gold just broke this high over here, made the new high. Now it did give us a drop, right? So we got a nice drop, nice pullback to the demand area, okay? And then we took off once again. So you can see that we'll most likely get above this high that we made because the pullback is over with. So what's next is the run to go and break the new high. So because of that, guys, I'll be bullish on gold, but definitely going to key in to see how price reacts around this resistance area to see if there's any selling opportunities. But because the dollar is bearish, all right, or it's looking like it's going to be bearish, I'm going to be bullish on gold and then potentially going to look for that sell. But we missed the boat on the buy. Don't buy it right here, guys. Wait for it to drop a little bit and then buy it. All right, but if we get to the high first, then look for a potential sell, right, to wherever we can potentially buy it from, and then, you know, do it that way, right? But I'm bullish on gold. Right, moving over to natural gas. Now, looking at natural gas, again, guys, we're on a major demand area. All right, last time we were here, we shot up. Last time we were here, we shot up. Okay, so we're here once again. Now, when it keeps knocking at the door, typically it'll break, right? But as it stands right now, it respected it pretty nicely, and this will be a good position to get into for a buy because, again, prices drop, so we're getting into this buy at the low with a discount. So I'm expecting it to rise up to resistance this week coming. All right, so bullish on natural gas. All right, over to oil, and oil's not doing anything. All right, it's like that pound pair that was just consolidating like crazy. All right, it's also consolidating. I'm not going to do anything with oil because it's just too much to deal with. It's not really giving any structure to really play off of. All right, and this is what, you know, being a professional or an expert in this is all about, right? Knowing when to trade and when not to trade, right? When you have a setup versus when you don't have a setup, and not just constantly getting in the market, trading any and everything because, you know, you're trying to make some money, but you have no idea of the right way on how to do that. All right, so again, if you want to figure that out, you know, better tap in. All right, over to SPY. Right, so SPY just kept rising no matter how bad we wanted it to fall. All right, but we know that drop is coming someday, right? Maybe not today, but it's coming. All right, so over on the 1 hour, you know, we can see in details here that we broke this high, made this new high, started getting rejection, so we may get some movement to the downside because of that massive wick rejecting the buyers. All right, guys, and we could come down to fill this imbalance on SPY. But because the dollar is bearish, typically SPY will still rise. So we got to be careful that we're respecting the area that we broke. We may just rise from here and continue going up. All right, so it's a little mixy at the moment, but if we kind of break back below the area that we broke, then I'll be bearish on SPY. Okay, but if we respect it, then I'll be bullish. All right, it's that simple. Moving over to NAS, same exact thing. Broke the high, made the new high, and now we're kind of moving sideways. So there's potential to sell it from this high, right? And then try to grab, catch it coming down to fill this imbalance, probably tap into this demand before it rises again. All right, guys, but for the moment, it is still bullish, right? So we can just come down a little bit to this demand and then rise up. So be very, very careful, right? On NAS, you want to see some sort of change of character, right, on the lower time frame before you get into that sell. All right, and we don't quite have it yet. We need to get right below this area for the change, and then from there, you'll look for the pullback and then a potential drop on NAS. All right, so for now, still bullish, but I'm looking for that drop. Hopefully we get it this week coming. All right, over to US 30, last but not least, and let's look at it from a higher time frame. This may not make any sense being so low. All right, here we go. So just a major rise, right? Again, breaking highs, making new highs, but rejecting it. Okay, so when we look at this from a lower time frame, like the 2 hour, guys, we can see a bit of a double top, right? These are equal highs. We already swept the previous high, right? So we're now getting a potential evening star to develop here on this 2 hour. And if that happens, look at that. That's such a nice wick rejection, and it's tattletelling. All right, we got liquidity sitting behind this trend line, and we can easily drop, guys, to go and get that this week coming up. So for US 30, it is unlike SPY and NAS, where it looks way more bearish, and I'll be looking to sell it right out the gate because of that wick and just catch it to sweep down on liquidity. And we're talking, 392 points just on that move. All right, guys. So this is what we got for the week. I hope y'all really are tapping in and paying attention, because these are, pretty much free plays, if you ask me, right? That, you can take in the demo or take in your live with a very small lot size, not doing too much, and see what you can get. You know what I mean? If you guys review any of the previous watch lists to see what actually happened that week, you guys might be extremely surprised, right? I won't be, but still, you know what I mean? It's just what I, put out here for you guys to help you understand that this is real, right? And you can make money, right? And you can really understand what you're doing to make the money, but you gotta want it, right? You gotta want to get in here. You can't be a scam. It can't be everybody else's fault, right? You just gotta, pull up your boots and, get to it. All right. So just, don't forget, like, comment, subscribe, right? Get your friends, your fam, cuz, all them, get your auntie in here. You know what I'm saying? And let's get it. All right. Meantime, in between time, y'all know what it is. It's your boy. Peace.
Want to get money? Want to get paid? That's Forex. Like a sensei, then you know you got to come and swing my way. And if you want to fast forward, hit replay.